All right. Since we've been taking polls back and forth here, I just want to ask, who here has seen Star Wars? Okay, and anyone who hasn't seen Star Wars, no shame. It's okay. Now, I saw a couple of you who didn't raise your hands. Did I miss another option? Well, if you're not familiar with Star Wars, this fluffy fellow's name is Chewbacca, and he is hugging a group of porgs. Didn't spoil anything for you, I promise. The reason I bring it up is the other night I was reading to my youngest son, Fox, and he and I came across this page near the end of the book where the mission had just ended. And it said that new missions take us to faraway places and teach us new things. I thought there was no better way to phrase what I hope to impart to you today. So today, I'm going to talk about the end. Endings I've experienced and things I've taken from them to embark on the next pages just waiting for me around the corner. Whether the endings were forced upon me because of someone else's choice or something I initiated, it's always brought me something new. And hopefully when I'm done, you're able to reflect on some of the endings you've experienced, good or bad, or just because, and arm yourself with new ways to handle that next chapter. If there has been one constant in my life, it's just that nothing has remained permanent. I think we can all relate to this because life is a roadmap, right? We're just going down the road and we hit a dead end. What do? We have to make a U-turn. We make a left, a right. We hit a roundabout. Do we even know how to drive those things? Right, exactly. Thank you. There's an end to everything. An end to a phone call, a relationship, a meeting. Sometimes suddenly we're at the end of that last jar of Grandma's pickled watermelon. The end of a class, a creative morning, a marriage. The end of our bank account. My experiences in my 34 years here on this planet, speaking of Star Wars, have encompassed chapters in foster care, adoption, the death of siblings and grandparents. I've lost body organs. I've experienced being a child of drug and alcoholics, and infertility, endings of pregnancies, good and bad. The list goes on and on. But I do just want to share with you two of those experiences. This one, the end of my family. I was adopted really young, and my adopted parents, they're Filipino. So I knew I was not a part of their family. My half-sister and I were so fortunate to be brought into such a loving home that just wanted children. But there was something missing. We were always yearning for more. And I remember this woman. We were about 5 and 6. My sister and I are really close in age. And there was a woman who sat behind us at church. And her name was Susan. She had brown hair and brown eyes and light skin. She was really nice, and she seemed really interested in us. Now, the only things that we knew about our biological mom was that she had brown hair, brown eyes, fair skin, and her name was, she went by Sue. We were convinced that, like, our mom was spying on us. So convinced. Like, we sat perfectly in church, like, every single Saturday evening. Yes, we were part of the Saturday evening mass crowd for those Catholics in the room. And, you get dinner and not have to wait in brunch lines the next day and all that. And my sister finally just got fed up and turned around and was like, "Are you our mom?" And Susan said, No, I'm not your mom. It was a letdown, but we kept looking. And when I was about 10, near the end of my 5th grade year, we did meet up with our biological mom. Circumstantially, our adopted parents just let us go. So I was ending my 5th grade year, my amazing career in elementary school, and catapulted almost immediately into a different life. I went from suburb to country. Our biological mom lived in this beautiful corner lot on 20 acres with her fiance and my 3 half-brothers. We had an instant family and an instant bond and connection. When we moved there in the summer, I remember for the first time watching sunflowers grow from beginning all the way to the end. It was quite magical and beautiful. And we had set up and created almost the perfect routine and lived like that for a while. So every morning, Mom would wake up when it was dark, because we had to beat the rooster, to the sun. And she'd wrestle all the kids out of bed, and we'd go outside and we'd tend the animals. And there were ducks and geese and peacocks and chickens and dogs and cats and you name it. Whatever it was that needed a rescue, Mom had it. We'd collect all the eggs, we'd refill the duck pond, we'd come back inside, Mom would have breakfast, ready to go for us. When school started, during the weekdays, we'd hop on the bus, go to school, come back, do dinner. Lather, rinse, repeat. The weekends were my favorite ritual. Now, her fiance, he worked 2 jobs, so he was not really always home. When he was home, we'd play video games and pal around the yard. But Mom had the Chevy S10, and it had 1 bench. Just 1 bench. So 5 of us, I think we'd kind of be sitting like that on that bench next to Mom. Mom, brother John, myself, with one of my brothers on my lap, sis with the other brother. And life really seemed to stand still. And it was everything I felt like I wanted since I was 3. Really, really wanted that life. But something changed. I was actually not that much older than my oldest son, Andon. It was the summer before I turned 13, and all of a sudden, we woke up when the rooster did. Mom started oversleeping. So we would hustle and bustle and run outside and do all the things, and Mom would still be asleep. Unfortunately, this was the beginning of her slipping back into those old habits. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would hear the roar of the Chevy, and I wouldn't see Mom for days. And things started getting neglected. Who was going to make the food? Who was going to cook? Who was going to clean? Who was going to tend? So I stepped up. I was Mom, 12 years old. I cooked all the meals that summer, got everyone kind of ready for the day. I mean, it's lazy, so I'm pretty sure pajamas were in style back then. We ate lots of cereal. Luckily, we had an uncle that came by every once in a while to drop off some groceries, but it was rough. It was rough. And when the school year started, it got even worse. We actually got kicked out of school and sent home with a homeschool curriculum because we never made it in. And there was no one there to make sure everyone was doing their studies. So I took over again. Now, over the course of the next couple of months, some very crazy things happened, which I'm sure you can imagine. Her fiance ended up leaving her and taking my youngest brother, the one sandwiched between my brother John and my sister Melissa. And so it was just the 4 of us and Mom when she was around. By Thanksgiving, I had reached my end. I was a kid, for crying out loud, taking care of this whole household with very little resources, didn't have much to protect myself. And I was just wasting that hope that she would snap out of it, that she would change again. So I made a decision, and I called a family member and said, I want to come visit for Thanksgiving, and I don't know if I want to come back. I was really fortunate enough to be one of my only siblings that knew my biological father, so I was lucky in this case. So I got up on Thanksgiving morning and packed a little bag of a couple things to not seem super suspicious. I made my first Thanksgiving meal, prepared it for my siblings, just so they would have it, and I hugged them goodbye. This is one of the hardest goodbyes I've had. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, gosh, that's a lot. Whoa. It was a lot, and I buried it away for a really long time. But as I went throughout my life experiencing various different things, I found that I learned a lot from that end of that situation. And the first thing was building up that expectation. No matter how perfect we set up our lives, they can be upended in an instant. It can be someone else's actions. It can be a phone call. It can be anything. It's not ultimately up to us. Secondly, I learned how to stay calm in the wake of chaos. Now, this is really important for my siblings who were super confused about what was happening and why I took over as mom, but it became important during the end of my first marriage, when my son Andon and I were starting a new life, and he wasn't seeing dad as often with mom, and mom as often with dad, and we were living separate lives. Calm in the wake of chaos was the one thing that kept going through my mind. When to call for help, and look out for yourself. When you get on a plane, they say, if you're sitting next to a young child, oxygen mask for you first to help the others around you. I didn't have that adult to do that for me, so I had to do that for myself. And to enjoy the good when it's good. I have vivid memories of the sunflowers growing in her garden. I vividly remember when we had first moved in. I was a really sensitive girl. I still am sometimes. And I was sad about something. My sister got to go on a trip, and I didn't get to go, and I was crying. And my mom just took me into her arms, and I could still remember the scent and that feeling of warmth. And I knew that she loved me, and I still do. Ready to move on to something not so somber? All right. So this one is a recent lesson that I learned. But it started actually back in 2012. For those of you who knew me before 2015 know I've gone through this journey of transformation with my personal health and wellness. But there's a lot of backstory. I had a herniated disc in my back in 2012, and I had to have surgery. That was fine. I, came out of it okay, clearly. I'm here standing before you today. But my doctor said something that really got under my skin. They're like, yes, you need to lose weight. I got that. I heard that all the time. I was an overweight child, so it was like, bouncing off like rubber. But they also said I can't exercise to get there because my back would continue to re-injure itself over and over again. It kind of sounded ridiculous. How am I supposed to lose weight if I can't exercise? Because I love food. It's not fair. But when I was ready, when I got over that sensitive part of myself, I started dieting to lose weight. And eventually, over a couple years, I just said, I don't care what they say. I walked into a gym for the first time in my life, and I started doing some cardio and some free weights, and I was like, this is fine. My back's great. This is fine. I hopped on a treadmill in January of 2015, and I ran a mile without feeling like I was running a mile. And I felt like there was more to it. There's more to it. I can't just love running. So I hit the trail and I just started to run. And I trained myself to run 1, 2, 3 miles at a time, entering and finishing little events and races. Nothing like super crazy fast. I have never placed ever. I would like to someday maybe, but maybe when I'm 72. Finish a marathon in 6 hours. But, it was really just my goal to finish and beat the odds. So I was training for a series of races and married to my second husband, and we suddenly found ourselves in a situation we never expected. I was pregnant again. This time without fertility treatment. It was a miracle. Our OBGYN was like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm sure. So with pregnancy, you have to slow down. But with this pregnancy, I had another health complication that put me at risk for running. So I couldn't run more than 1.5 miles at a time. So annoying. I was super annoyed. Anyone who knew me during that time knew I was super annoyed by having this cage put on me again. And we made the decision in 2018 to end my childbearing forever. I got a hysterectomy. But that opened another door. I could start running again. It's really exciting for me. So this is a really long-winded story, but in September of last year, I entered the CASA Superhero Run, and if you've never done it, it's really fun. You don't need to actually run the run, but some of us who like to run will run. And I showed up with the whole family wearing Spider-Man gear. It was really fun. And much to my surprise, I finished at under a 9-minute mile. I don't know how it happened because I was training at 10:30, it's totally ludicrous. So I do what all crazy running people do. I was like, I'm going to sign up for the Austin Distance Challenge. Never running more than 5-mile event in my life. So let me tell you what that is. It's a 5K, which I just completed, a 10-mile run within a month of that run, a half marathon scheduled a month later, another half marathon scheduled a month later, and then the Austin full marathon. No sweat, I got this. Remember how they said I shouldn't be running more than a couple miles? Or like, you're never gonna run without all this injury stuff? I didn't experience it. So at this time, I had made a new friend, and we were talking a lot, and we were going back and forth about some things, and I got some really encouraging advice. And they said, just imagine how good it's going to feel to cross that finish line. That's a feat not many people say they can do. And in this moment, I realized not every ending is a result of bad. I had experienced so many bad endings that I had taken my eye off of the endings that are good. And what I did was I pushed myself beyond limits that were almost convincing by anyone, including myself, about what I could do. So here I am, the 5 different races. It was really cold that one day. It's like, 20-something degrees. And over the course of the challenge, I had to make so many changes to my life, my diet, shifting calories. I got the okay to eat cereal before I went to bed. That was awesome. It's like my favorite thing to do. I did have a bowl of cereal last night to pregame for this talk. Pictures to prove it. And I really learned things about taking care of myself and resting, mentally, emotionally, physically preparing myself for what was ahead. I spent a lot of time on the trails. I met a lot of people. I ran hours on Saturdays. Hours. My longest run, my running buddy and I, my running wife is what she was deemed as by her wife, 2 loops around Town Lake. And now I'm like 6 miles, I'm good on Town Lake. So crossing that finish line, February 17th, 2019, felt pretty incredible. It's a really gross looking x-ray of the marker of my herniated disc right there, just for y'all to enjoy after that lovely breakfast. But what I learned was, number 1, if you're gonna do this, you need some really good running shoes. Done. But secondly, really the power of saying no. I just say no a lot. No, I can't stay out late. No, I can't have that cocktail. No, we can't do that thing on Saturday morning, because remember, I have a 20-mile run scheduled with whomever. And that was hard, but it gave me distance. It helped me create some boundaries. Never underestimating the power of rest. I am not a good sleeper, but when I was training for all these events, I slept. I slept so much. It was really, really great, and it was so good for my body and for my mind. And how important it is to be present. There was a really interesting conversation I had with my running wife, where she kept noticing that I pull out my phone every couple miles, text a couple people, and she's like, "What do you do? Put that away." She taught me to be present on the trail, face to face with my kids, when I'm by myself, when I'm with my friends and loved ones, and to beat the odds. Sometimes when they say no, you just have to say, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it." It just taught me more self-love, more self-discipline, and gave me more time to be present when in the moment. So, what I want to leave with you is that when you are forced into an ending that will throw you into darkness, maybe think about it like you're a seed again. You're going to germinate under that dark soil. It'll be nasty and wet. You won't see light for days or weeks or months or years. And there will be times which this just has to happen. And you'll come out of it. It might be slow, like a single sprout, just making its way through the grains of sediment and soil. It might be fast. You could develop into a flower or a tree or a bush. But oftentimes, no one above the surface sees anything underneath. But we know what's underneath. No one else sees that. That's almost like a secret gift that you have. All of those roots buried underground. So what made you who you are? And carry it forward. Start the new chapter. Write another line in that book. Take those gifts with you. Just live it a different way. Every end we experience can carry enlightenment to take us onto our next beginnings. Thank you. Bye, Erin.